Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
Well, I don't know.
I know I'm not supposed to say that. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for
that?
asking saying something different. Yes. I don't know how I am.
No,
I'm a little, I hadn't seen the new intro. I wanted to wait to watch it with everybody. I'm a little traumatized by Lauren Sanchez. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But thanks. Shout out to Chunk for all that
Chunk
great work.
I was howling when I watched
Amazing.
it.
Yes, so funny.
So good. So good.
So good. How you're in a different location? You're traveling this week.
I'm in Florida. I'm behind enemy lines. I'm in DeSantistan. Where people are just blissfully unaware of what's happening. That's all I can say. I think,
okay.
And we'll talk about this more later, but people have no fucking idea what hammer is about to fall. Just to plant the little Pink Floyd image in everybody's brain, because we're going to do a little Floyd later.
Yeah.
And I don't know,
I think folks are waking up in different, are kind of like paying attention in different ways to sort of, offshoot things.
Yeah.
But I don't know that anyone's prepared for this strange new world that I feel like we're careening into it pretty quickly. So should we just?
I think you know what people are talking about, LB. What people are talking about, even here, even among MAGA people that I know, is one Jeffrey Epstein and these Jeffrey Epstein files. That's a topic that has not evaded them.
It has, as we knew it would not. Correct. I believe that was called. I believe that was called. Like, this is gonna, you can't radicalize people, an entire nation, a cult within a nation, an entire political party, at least the majority of the base, think that you're going to radicalize them around your garbage op, and then that somehow that's going to be irrelevant down the line when you need to when it needs to be discarded. And by the person I'm coming up with here is Donald. I think that he's clearly, there's no way Pam Bondi is doing something that Donald Trump hasn't told her to do. There's not a MAGA-verse in which that would happen. At the many MAGA verses that we can conjure up in this really pathetic, garbage, stupid, ridiculous universe that of weirdo superheroes, right? And supervillains, where the supervillains believe they're superheroes that we've been subjected into. Not a single one of those universes would we be able to have Pam Bondi do something against the will of Donald.
Would that be in relation in any way to the fact that he gave her shares in his company that were worth millions of dollars before he made her attorney general, which nobody's talking about for some reason?
Oh, the corruption. Why would we talk about the corruption, Greg Olear?
I bet our guest knows about that. I bet
our guest does.
That has not eluded her attention. Yeah.
But let's jump into it. I'm going to turn I'm so sorry, guys. It is hot. I got to turn my fan down a little bit. I think it's loud. There we go. I'm going to do this. I should have done that before the show. I apologize, but I didn't realize how loud that was going to be until we were live on air. All right. So should we dive into it? You want to dive into the first topic?
Yeah, go. I thought we were doing the first topic.
We're doing it, but kind of a little segue. So I was on Wednesday night with the great Nadine Smith filling in for Lisa Graves on 5-8.5 this past Wednesday. If you guys aren't watching that show, it's wonderful. And Nadine always just like regulates me. It's like it's like trauma therapy. She's amazing. But we were able to talk about Epstein there. And I feel like, although if you watched it, you might feel like I'm repeating myself. I think this is worth repeating. The sort of intentional collapsing of information into one thing into another thing, sort of Russian dolling the Epstein debacle when it comes to Donald and his propagandists, and why MAGA is in fits over this whole thing, but what they have right and what they have wrong. And I think it's kind of really important to review it, because it is so important, not just that it's fracturing them, which is yay, anything they have the scales fall off the eyes, but that we're in a world where we're being highly manipulated with real things in order for the population to be controlled. And the more we can kind of see it, understand it, talk about it, dissect it in that way, this stuff that's not where it's relevant and where it's not relevant, and sort through it, then we can maybe understand when we're actually, as a population, through the discourse, being manipulated, so that we're not focusing things like, oh my God, we just lost Medicaid, right? All these people are going to starve. Oh my God, all the State Department just got gutted at a whole other level today.
1,500 people got fired.
Yeah. So, and also, where does something have teeth? Where does something matter? And what does it mean? And what are we really looking at when it comes to the Jeffrey Epstein, the whole, thing, if we pull back from it? So I just want to I'll do another reminder. MAGA was not, before it was really MAGA, but it was sort of the Trump fan base, right? In the first run for the presidency back in 2015, 2016, even into 2017, and at the early bits of 2018, they were not clued in to Jeffrey Epstein. This was not a name in their world. This wasn't a character. They have all their characters, and he wasn't a figure. He just wasn't. They weren't aware of it. Maybe if they were, it was sort of a strange thing off to the side. It hadn't become part of Q, and it hadn't become part of this sort of save the children, and oh my God, the Dems are all pedophiles. And that hadn't happened yet. That sort of using Jeffrey Epstein and his real crimes to somehow pull in Elders of Zion stuff and shove it onto Hillary Clinton, like this weird, mishmashy paper mache thing that the MAGA land had created. The people who were writing about Jeffrey Epstein and trying to bring attention to Jeffrey Epstein and who he was connected to and what this all meant back in 2015, 2016, 2017 were me and you, and maybe 4 or 5 other people. This was before Julie K. Brown had done her incredible reporting of talking to the victims. We were doing it because we were on Donald's corruption, and right there at the heart of his corruption and the myth that he was weaving, and that Mark Burnett helped him weave about who he was, the truth about who this man was in there was Jeffrey Epstein, this running buddy that he had, his best friend, his neighbor. No matter where they lived, they were neighbors. Didn't matter where they lived. The man who recruited victims out in Ghislaine, out of Mar-a-Lago, out of Donald's properties. Ghislaine, who was close also with Donald and then Melania later. Mm-hmm. Ghislaine, who was the daughter of Robert Maxwell, who Donald had tried to get into business deals with him, and his former business partner, a big Russian gangster. Looks like Donald did launder a lot of that money. So we found Jeffrey through the money and the corruption and the money laundering. This character kept floating up, and he had this very sordid history of having this arrest and having this, and getting off, and Dershowitz being the one. And all these characters were popping up around Jeffrey Epstein that were characters in Donald's world that were always so strange and obscure. And we were looking at that going, what is this thing? Who is this guy? And even then, Alex Acosta, at the time of the prosecutor, had been on the record saying he belonged to intelligence. That piece of information was out there. And then you and I had our sources, and I had my source, and I went to my source, one very big one, and I said, was this guy an intelligence asset? And I got a, So it wasn't about the conspiracy that came later. It just was a well-known fact that Jeffrey Epstein, not that he was blackmailing people, but that in the case against him was the underlying evidence that he had recording equipment in the 90s in all of his homes and his plane and his island, that there was recording equipment. This came from testimony from the girls, from the victims. It came from testimony from the people who worked for Jeffrey Epstein, worked on his properties. It's in the court record, right? And we knew, and even named a certain number of hours of footage, sort of like it was in the hours and hours and hours of footage was documentation of the crimes. Okay? That's all fact and matter. There's no one's disputing any of that. Now, we also know that at that time, in the first arrest and in the initial case, and then subsequently later, because the victims kept suing, and then as we all remember, Jeffrey Epstein got arrested again during the Donald Trump's administration because more evidence came forward. They got him at the airport. He went over to MCC and hanged himself, whatever. So by that time, MAGA was on to him. In that early case against him and in the subsequent case against him, in both those cases, there were court documents where the victims were naming people. There were named individuals that were part of where and how the girls were trafficked. And also part of Ghislaine's case, right? What ended up coming and being Ghislaine's case. So now by this time, MAGA's on to it all. Yes, there were redactions in that early case of the names because Alan Dershowitz made sure he got people's names out of there. He made sure that it wasn't a crime, right? That these men were raping these underage girls. But it was in the documents that was part and parcel of the case. This was part of Jeffrey's thing. This is who he was. This is what he was. There were other individuals. The girls were passed around. Bad things happened on his properties. With the girls, there was recording equipment, and the girls understood and knew the names of the men that they were asked or groomed into and recruited by Ghislaine into having sex with. But because they were minors, it was rape, even though Alan Dershowitz worked really hard to make sure it wasn't put in the first case as rape. All of that, MAGA comes into that. They come into that. And they want to know, because then it's getting whipped around, because the most evidence, if you look at, what Gawker published with the Jeffrey's Little Black Book years and years ago, all the stuff that you and I and the folks we were working with exposed and wrote about and put out there about who this guy was, his connections to Donald, was all saturated with Donald Trump. He was everywhere, just everywhere in Jeffrey's world. You couldn't talk about Jeffrey Epstein, look at anything without Jeffrey Epstein, even Google images of Jeffrey Epstein without being inundated with Donald Trump. That was them. That was them. But by the time we were putting it all out there, that offensive bullshit strike came in to separate Jeffrey from Donald and create this whole mythology about the conspiracies and the deep state stuff and the QAnon stuff. That is how Jeffrey got pulled away from Donald and then served up to MAGA. Because at some point, MAGA was going to look and get inundated with the same kind of stuff as us without knowing and being like, wait a minute, what's Donald doing in here? So that counter narrative came in once we put the facts out there and really promoting it. And Julie K. Brown did that incredible reporting. Yeah. Boom. In comes this other thing. MAGA's in that other thing. And the whole focus was, who are the names of these men? Where's that? And that became called within MAGA land, the list. It got, they have to name things. The list. We want the list. He's blackmailing these men, right? That's how he made all his money, blackmailing It's blackmailing, but no one asking why is he blackmailing these guys? He's just blackmailing for money, you know? So Pam Bondi's able to come out and say there was no blackmail and there's no list, because that was the distortion and the sort of made up language around the case in order to deflect away from Donald that was served up to MAGA. But in truth, when you look at those files and you're in there, I'm sure there isn't I'm sure Jeffrey didn't keep he has a black book, but I can't imagine he wrote down, he sat down, okay, today I'm going to add this person to my list of that. But we know those girls were not filmed by themselves. They weren't filmed by themselves. So the investigators and the Department of Justice, with all that evidence, should be able to identify who these men were, plus the girls named the men.
Right.
Plus Alan Dershowitz negotiated settlements away from the men and other lawyers as well, representing some of the other men. So it's known who these people are. And that's what MAGA wants. And that's what Pam Bondi is protecting. I know we're going over. I just want to keep putting this in there because now legacy media, everybody's talking about it. Oh, this is going to split MAGA. But I just want to remind everybody that the terminology that MAGA grabbed onto and that they were radicalized with is getting in the way. Okay? They're not wrong to be upset and worried about the fact that maybe a industrial scale, pedophile rapist, child sex trafficker has control over some industry leaders and politicians. That's not good. They're right. That's a bad thing. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. However, we got to go back to what Acosta was saying and listen carefully to the pundits that are dismissing Jeffrey Epstein as having something to do with intelligence when it came out of the mouth of our own agencies and our own prosecutors at the time. There is, in the way the world works, and you just can't get away from this, it is true. Foreign intelligence services, especially adversarial one, but even allied ones, would benefit from also having compromising information on American businessmen and politicians. To think that foreign intelligence services would not seek that information, to think there's not a really detailed history and incredible skill set and developed training within those intelligence services to go out and get information like that. That's their raison d'etre, right? A lot of them. And so that's where the value is. And to think that Jeffrey wouldn't have those, that he didn't have those connections when we know he did, that he didn't use those connections, we know that he did. When there's people who witnessed it, there's people who employed him that were former foreign intelligence officers that came forward and said, yes, we had him do this for us. And that all gets dismissed. Maybe it's all conspiratorial, maybe it's not. But that's the way to think about the blackmail. Not that Jeffrey Epstein necessarily, and this is how Pam Bondi might be able to get away with this. Maybe he wasn't directly blackmailing someone, say, like, just for example, Bill Gates or Bill Clinton or Donald Trump. But if he handed all of that, all that video file, Jovi, sold it to a foreign intelligence service and made his money that way, those are the folks now with the leverage. To give this, not to, again, just to pull back into reality, you have to remember that those buildings of Jeffrey's, the homes, the planes, the island, we know they were wired up. There's no disputing that. It's in the court record. Even his camp admitted it. It's evidence, right? That evidence was collected and found in the 1990s. I don't think Jeffrey Epstein was a Radio Shack wizard in the 1990s and spent all of his free time figuring out how to put cameras in his homes and wire it all into a database. And I'm just putting it out there. My suspicion is, with my own expertise and what I know, is that he probably had some significant help and installing. And some of those homes weren't his to begin with. He got one from an oligarch and one from Les Wexner, right?
Yeah.
So he definitely had some significant help in wiring up those properties. That was not an easy thing to do in the 1990s.
No, there was
not
no
easy.
Yeah.
Not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy. So don't forget there's a prince involved. There's a member of the royal family involved in this whole thing.
Right.
Don't think that people aren't protecting that guy, right? Still. So it is a big deal. It is a big deal. It's not just, there's other stuff to pay attention to. Yes, there is. There's really big shit going on in the world. There's really serious stuff happening. And this is what's sort of fracturing everything, because the last thing I want to say about it is there's no way to cover it up completely, because there were 2 cases. And foreign intelligence services, I guarantee you, foreign intelligence agencies have the material. I guarantee you they have the material. So, plus the redactions of the names, right? The list is something Pam Bondi's supposed to go and write up.
Mm-hmm.
She can make a list. She's got all the evidence. Go make the list, Pam. Don't say there's no list. You're the one that's supposed to fucking make the list. Go make the list. Give your base the names of the people, right? Or tell them why you can't, because the Justice Department cut deals with them. Alex Acosta cut deals with them. Let them know that. Let your base know that. But these girls weren't all filmed all by themselves, and that's the child porn that she says she can't let anybody see. Okay? The names that are redacted from the court documents, understand that those court documents, and I'm taking a long time, but our guest will help with this. When you have a big underlying evidence in a court case, both sides get to see that, right? It might get redacted later, but at some point they're seeing it. So this stuff is out in the wild and has been for a long time. There are legal consequences for the folks that are involved in that case on the defense or the prosecution to expose the redactions. But Pam Bondi and Donald Trump, they have no.
You see what happened there? She vanished. This is the thing. I think that clearly somebody's listening to her and doesn't want to hear what she has to say. So my comments on this are pretty simple. First of all, there's somebody alive right now who was with Jeffrey Epstein through this entire process that's rotting in a prison somewhere in federal custody, who knows everything that happened. So that's one thing. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. If Trump is going to be like, oh, it's time to pardon Ghislaine, I don't know if he will or not, but we'll see. You got kicked off and cannot see myself. You cannot see yourself because I can't see you. I don't know. She's going to have to log out and log back in again, I guess. I don't know. Well, I wanted to say that. And the other thing I wanted to say is nobody would go through all the trouble and expense and detail and putting all of the stuff, all of these cameras and wires and all this stuff in all of these homes, taking video of all these things and then not doing anything with it. Like, why would he do that? I think, did he just see Sliver with Sharon Stone and Billy Baldwin? It was like, I want that. I don't think so. I don't think that's what it is at all. So hold on. Log in again. Anyway, I don't want to keep our guests waiting, and I certainly don't want to monologue here. So this might be a good time to go to the media this week. Oh, no, she's back.
Can you see me?
I can see you. What happened?
I don't know.
I blame Jeffrey Epstein.
I honestly have never had that before, so I don't know. I don't know what happened. I'm on my phone because my computer, that's it.
Very, very strange.
Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I can't see or do anything. Okay, so anyway, I guess I'm here. You're seeing my ceiling.
Okay.
Maybe if I go that way.
Yeah, that's better.
So sorry, everyone. How crazy. Crazy.
So I was thinking that wait, did you want to wrap up what you were saying?
I don't know where I got left. Where did I get left?
You were just about done, I think.
I was done. I'm so sorry for the length, but it's been hard for me to listen to it without all this sort of. We need to bring clarity around all the stuff that's just people are punditing about. And, so the big last note I wanted to land and taking my time to get there, and sorry to our guests, is, there's too many copies of the unredacted. They just don't know what's out in the wild. So it's not like the only file of Jeffrey Epstein exists within the confines of the Justice Department, and that's it. From all of the underlying evidence, must be assumed that it's been out in the wild for quite some time, from the videos to the court documents themselves, the case documents themselves since the case happened, with the names of individuals unredacted. So that's why she can't. I think they got in there thinking we'll just remove Donald's name and then it became clear. Yeah, that's not. You can't do it. There's too much out there. So
Elaine is still around and in federal custody. Like she knows everything that happened and whatever. So we'll skip.
And we don't know what's happening there.
Oh, you're not linking up to your thing.
Okay. Let me try. I'm going to log off. I'm going to log off and log back on again. I'm going to try to go on a different computer. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
This has never happened before. But it really probably is just coincidence. Okay.
Sure.
Oh my God. All right. Sorry, guys. All right. Somehow I do this.
I'll go there. I'm removing you. Okay. So sometimes, we do these media, which Chunk does the fantastic animation for every week. And sometimes they're funny and sometimes they're not. And sometimes I think the best way to really explain what's happening right now, especially with this Epstein thing, is, through parody. So here we go.
Yeah, sure. If I
could I just interrupt for a second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, and are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
There's a little black book, and his name's there. He would fly on his private plane there. And more often than not, he'd see Ghislaine there. They were neighbors on the Upper East Side. They were pals in Palm Beach. Jeffrey found Virginia at Mar-a-Lago. There were hours and hours of tapes of the rapes. Like Jeffrey, he liked them younger. And that is how I know. He got in a jam! He went to Cash and to Pam! And now, there are no Epstein files.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Okay. LB is trying to. What I was going to say is, no, that's heavy. That's a heavy one. And but that's what happened. And sometimes it's easier to just sing it, Trump is fond of walls. He's fond of building the wall, right? So we'll build a wall with him. You're back. Okay.
Is it bad though? Oh,
You're echoing like you're making pink because you're on twice. That's why. You're on twice. Anyway, okay. Our guest, who's been waiting long enough, I think, she is the author of 2 books, Big Dirty Money and Other People's Houses. She's a law professor, and she has a show on YouTube in the morning called Jen Taub Live. Jen Taub, welcome back to the 5-8. How are you?
I'm okay, and I want to apologize to Stephanie because I think I might have brought the gremlins. It must be me. So apologies to you.
I apologize too. Can everybody hear me? I literally can't log off on the phone. That's trapped. It won't let me do it. I've never had this. I apologize so much.
I'm going to try this.
It's all good.
I'm so excited to have you with us tonight. And we're really looking forward to it.
I was listening. By the way, I had my little drink, a little chartreuse after dinner drink, and was listening. And no one pulls threads together like you do, Stephanie. Not only do you provide the context, but you explain the dueling narratives. And I really appreciate the way in which you present what you present, just as if it's known to everyone, but you have a kind of incredible mind that you can make. It's like watching ballet, right? You watch it and you almost believe you could be the ballerina, but of course not you. We could not be her, right? We could not. But that is the way when you speak and discuss how I feel. Like I feel elevated and intelligent. And
what
like, yes, of course.
Compliment. Thank you so much, Jen.
No, but thank you for that.
You're welcome. Well, I think it's just this particular thing. This has been over 10 years now, and it's just sort of worth reminding. I don't know that he would have become this figure within the MAGAverse if there hadn't been all that other work done. First, of exposing his financial and corruption connections to Donald, that then exposed that, they were best friends and they were running and the girls were coming out. Like that was a secondary factor of discovering the connections with the crimes that he was, the potential overlap there. Right. But the actual information that we had it's indisputable is their financial commingling, dating back to the years that Jeffrey was running offshores for Bear Stearns and Ace Greenberg. So you're the perfect person to come on because, of course, it's always the money. It's always following the money. If you go back to the money and you try to just look at that, you'll find the origins for everything.
And in this case, it happens that it's the perversion and the domination, right? That's part of this. So this goes unusually. Follow the money helps us. Sometimes money is the end in of itself. In this case, there's something much sicker, right, going on here, as you've discussed, and how beautifully the video you just showed laid it right out there. You're right. Sometimes it's easier to watch that. And so I want to kind of jump into where we are right now, which is where you started, which is this debate that's being had and this fight happening within, as you put it, the MAGAverse, about who is to blame for not disclosing all that could be disclosed in the Epstein files. Let's put it that way. And I agree with you. There's not like a list saying, here are the guys who showed up in this date and that date. It's not like that. The Epstein list is a metaphor for information that could be unredacted, like the mask can be taken off and we could see who was involved and the extent of their involvement and so on, right? If we can know, and how the blackmail worked. All of that, right now, for some strange reason, the MAGAverse seems to be blaming a single person, as you mentioned, Attorney General Pam Bondi. Somehow, she has deputized herself to be in charge of this information. I mean, it is so unbelievably stupid or craven that anyone would believe that she would have that control. As you know, it would be Donald Trump who would make that decision, what she could or could not release. We know that very well. And if he wanted it released, he would put out a true social saying, Pam Bondi, release the Epstein files. Thank you for your attention to this matter. It's just one thumbstroke away. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess there are a couple things. And also apparently, as you probably have seen, Dan Bongino, deputy director of the FBI, didn't show up at work and is threatening to quit or saying he might quit. And now
Please don't leave, Dan Bongino. How will we ever continue?
Wait. Apparently Kash Patel, head of the FBI, is saying, if Pam Bondi doesn't quit, we will. I swear to you, seems to be what's in the news. I don't know.
He was gushing about her not long ago during his swearing-in ceremony.
I don't really care who goes and who doesn't. I want to know what do they know and how can we know it, I would say. And so I went back when I was thinking about this week to January of, I think it was 2024. I think that was, or it was, let me just look at the exact year. And I saw that there was, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So in early 2024, the Epstein documents were released in connection with, I think it was when Virginia Giuffre had rest her soul, had been in, had settled, and part of the settlement was she was going to get these things maybe released, or that case was over, so they could be released. And when those documents were released, names were redacted. And I went back and read and listened to an interview with Julie K. Brown, who you mentioned was on the case after you guys. She's the Miami Herald reporter who doggedly refused to let this go. And I think her reporting led to this second round
Absolutely.
of going against Epstein and not allowing that shady deal that happened down in Florida with Acosta to stand. Well, so that's why Ghislaine was indicted, and that's why Jeff Epstein was indicted. Well, in 2024, and of course this is after Epstein's death in prison, whether by suicide and he wasn't observed well or murder, this came out. So Julie K. Brown was interviewed on PBS, and the key thing and I'm looking at my phone so I can find this key thing. The key thing she mentioned was that there were 150, let me just see this, names. I think it's 150 names in the documents of people who were connected to Jeff Epstein, some of whom we know, or they know, probably because of elsewhere, are implicated in child rape. And these names of these people are referred to as the J Does, as in John Does, right? And those names could be released right now. Now, weirdly enough, Alan Dershowitz is now making the rounds saying, yeah, there are names that could be released. So I don't know, maybe those are the people who refuse to deal with him and get a settlement. I don't know what's going on. But it seems to me that those names could be released. And the only reason why you would not do that, and the justification, a valid justification would be, what if someone's name on it was just the person, who delivered pizza one day, or what if, but that's not what these documents are, right?
That's not what the documents are. And
by the way, if you're the pizza guy, whatever. And we also know, let me just say one last thing, sorry, that I want to know. And then I want to open it to you. The thing that's been really on my mind about Dan Bongino is this. This is a guy who bought in fully to the distorted version of Epstein, right? There's the real thing involving Donald Trump, and then there's the scapegoating, and it's all Democrats and Bill Clinton stuff. And by the way, if it's Bill Clinton, let his name come out, right? I don't care. My question right now is Dan Bongino upset because he has actually seen these documents, or has he not? Look, I'm trying to understand. Did Kash Patel and Pam Bondi keep this close? Look, who in there actually knows enough to know there's a cover up, and who doesn't? Then my next question is, I guess Ghislaine was afraid for her life, so maybe that's why she's just zipped her lips on this. And if Dan Bongino really knows stuff, if they really showed him something or hinted, I mean, he did say on that news interview and Fox how upset he was to have to go to work and listen to Kash Patel talking. He can hear him breathing. He must know stuff. So the question is, why would any of these people, unless they don't really have any brain cells working, think that they can leave this administration and talk about what they saw without committing suicide? Anyway, so that's what I'm laying at you. These aren't really legal questions. This is more like investigative, like, why is it making sense? What is happening right now? Who knows what? And what is the, is it ever possible? Like you mentioned, the foreign intelligence services might know. Why isn't anyone finally dropping the hammer on Donald Trump? Stephanie or Greg?
I want to hear Greg's answer to that. Why is it? Why? Because there's the goods are out there, and why? What? Who's?
What more do we need to fucking know? That's the thing. What more do we need to know? He bought these two people. He gave them millions of dollars worth of shares, and the department that's in charge of charging crimes is run by one of them, and the department in charge of investigating crimes is run by the other. So nothing that either one of these two people say means a world of shit, right?
Then why did they leave Bongino out of the deal? They didn't give him a cut, or why is he not?
I don't think
playing the
Bongino
game?
is not part of. I don't think Bongino is in the Trump media. I may be wrong. I'm pretty sure he's not. Okay?
I feel like our second topic that we didn't. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, but like we know he's in the. There's. Look at the video of him dancing with the. Like, how much more shit do we need? Do
Well,
people
you heard that
really see the
complaint.
fucking video? Because if they see the video, they're just going to say it's a deep fake anyway. No, we're never going to see the video. How much more evidence do we need? We have accusers. We have circumstantial evidence out the wazoo. We have multiple people talking about it. We have financial shit. We have the fact that they're neighbors. We have the fact that they're hanging out. We have the fact that Donald, he's a fun guy. He likes him younger. We have the fact that when they got in a fight, they were friends for 14 fucking years. They got in a fight because both of them wanted to buy the house that Les Wexner used to own in Palm Beach. And Trump outbid Epstein, and Epstein got mad. And then Trump got mad. And then like right after that, like the next day, suddenly the Palm Beach police were interested in Jeffrey Epstein because there's girls at his place. Okay. So if Trump did that, if John Barron called up the Palm Beach police, how would he know? Right? Like there's so much fucking evidence. How much more do people need?
Let me just add, Greg, sadly, where they're laying the ground now is, well, 15. You know, it's just the law is so stupid. You know, if she's had her period, she's an adult.
Dershowitz. Yeah, Dershowitz been doing that from day one.
But that's what the MAGA people could say, right? Because they're like, well, there's, you know, that's where they might be with this. Except Pam Bondi has said it's child porn, so she's already said that.
Yeah.
So, but Greg, people do need. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, that's great. Go ahead, Stephanie. Sorry.
I think I want to give. Look, MAGA is the bane of all of us right now, and of the free world and the future of humanity, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not trying to make a bunch of enemies. It's such a toxic movement. It is fascism. We'll get into all of that.
It's a neo-Confederate. Right.
It's a neo-Confederate. It's all of that stuff in there. Yep. And I believe there are people in there who are swept away with all of it because of their own damaged souls, their own moral bankruptcy. And yet they're still human beings. And for them, this became such a radicalizing topic, and the Jeffrey Epstein and the kids, because they do understand we don't want a government or a world run by child rapists. You know, now that's such a adolescent way of looking at the world, and even this case, and it's immature, and it's hyperbolic, and it's dramatic, and it's, you know, straight out of some kind of weird MAGA Real Housewives kind of craziness. It's all of those things. It's all a thought disorder. It's all right. And yet they're not wrong. I think it's important for everyone to give yeah, you're actually right about this. We don't want this.
Mm-hmm.
Of
We don't
course.
want this.
That-
You
Well, that's
don't.
why I didn't want
relevant.
Trump. I knew he was involved in this and other sexual assaults, and I knew that. Right, we saw the accusation and the complaint from that woman who said when she was a child, X, Y, and Z happened with Donald Trump. That's why I didn't want him to do this. So that's why I think what you said was so brilliant, Stephanie, which was they knew this was out here, so they just had to kind of lay the groundwork for the distraction. Sorry, Greg, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I think it was like watch us call. There's like there's precedent for this actually in military intelligence science. You know, we had Zarina Zabritsky on Wednesday night, 5, 8 and a half, who understands that that's what the science of propaganda is, and you know how other nations develop this, especially Russia. It's very important. You can go to school and study this, and there are. I remember when the concept of active measures in the first Trump administration was introduced by. What was the name of the FBI agent who was like, there's something called active measures. And they actually came and sat in front of Congress and sort of or Senate and tried to like explain it so the American people could get a concept of this it's this sort of contrived thing that comes out of a foreign intelligence service to work on a population. And some of it's kinetic, and some of it can be also just propaganda, just messages or, a discourse, a narrative, but it's all about moving.
And Cambridge Analytics was very much involved in all of
that. Yeah.
Yes.
So I almost feel like there was a little bit of sitting back, sort of seeing, are people going to find this stuff between Jeffrey and Donald, and how much momentum will it gain? And when it was very clearly gaining momentum, and then you had a journalist like Julie K. Brown that was going to be on it and be pulling the victims back into the discourse, it was like it was ready. They were ready to go, whack. We're going to whack this off at the pass. So I almost felt like we were used a little bit, Greg. I do, to surface. And, you felt when you were in there, you're like, oh, did I just what's going on here? There was talk about this thing that just happened.
There's a whole level of shit. You can tell now looking back. Yeah. And you did a lot more work on this than I did. I'm not going to claim credit here, but looking back, there's a lot of artificial, man-made or influenced stuff with it. Yeah. So I forgot. I'm sorry. In my diatribe about Trump, like when Ivanka was 15. He gave her to the modeling agency run by John Casablancas, his buddy, who's another complete fucking creepo guy, and which Trump knew, and he still gave his 14-year-old, 15-year-old daughter over to her to go model.
There was a case against him when he handed Ivanka over to him.
Oh my God! And the Trump modeling agency, the models that they hired later on when Trump ran them looked like Ivanka when she was 15. By the way, so just a little bit more evidence. Also, before, Jen, you said that it was a metaphor, the Epstein files was a metaphor, and which it is. But I'm pretty sure, I think,
I mean, the list.
Want to say this word.
I meant the word, the list was a metaphor, not. I didn't mean the whole file. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I think it's a synecdoche. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, it is a synecdoche. You're totally right.
Yeah.
I remember. Yes. That kind
I just want to check off being able to say that word once on a live show.
It spelled like Synecdoche or something weird. But yeah. Or is it a metonymy?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's the first one, because metonymy is when I remember this because in the poetry book it's the claws instead of the crab. The claws go along the line of the.
Metonymy is like calling a ship hand a hand.
Yeah.
No.
Metonymy is a smaller piece of something standing in for the whole, and I think synecdoche is a larger, more of an umbrella term.
So a synecdoche would be calling the executive branch of the government the White House. Is that a synecdoche?
Yes, that's exactly right. As far
the
as
deep state, right?
Anyway.
The all of this supposed stuff happening in the.
You just joined us. This is English Literature 305.
Yeah, this is the
Please don't put your cell phones away.
This is the good stuff right here. Do we want to keep talking about Epstein, or do you want to?
No, we want to be. I just felt like we did. I wanted to make this point.
No, I'm glad we did. I think we
got through the. Are you serious? that was going to be a topic. We ended up not having that, I guess, because I exploded.
We can do it later.
But hang on, I just wanted to say, I think we covered it, because when you get into these characters like Dan Bingo Bongo, I can never say his name, these aren't serious. At the same time of all this stuff, we have such unserious people
running
in
everything.
these positions. So
there was a headline, and the reason I wanted to do Are You Serious? There was a headline in, I forget if it was WAPO or the New York Times, where it says, Laura Loomer says Pam Bondi should be. That's it's a news article in a major newspaper about Laura Loomer and what she says. And the thing is, I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is completely insane. But at least Laura Loomer is thinking about policy, because the rest of them are not. This is all, I mean, I know people have said it before. It's like, oh, it's the Apprentice White House edition, but it really is. None of them are doing anything. It's all about scene to scene to scene to scene. Here's Kristi Noem here by the thing. Here's this, here's that. And nothing ever gets done. It's
well, I mean, the evil Chauncey Gardner only thinks things exist if they're on the television, right? So they have to. He was just asked the other day about if Kristi, about Kristi Noem and the 72 hours waiting before she, had anyone show up from FEMA with the floods in Texas. And he said, oh, she's doing a lot. I saw her on television.
Oh, my God. That, by the way, you bring that up. Now, apparently the law is that she has to sign off on any expenditure over
100,000. Yeah, she changed it to that.
She's the same person who has obviously Secret Service protection everywhere she goes and still managed to leave her fucking pocketbook and have it get lost at a restaurant.
On the ground. Also, it's superstition to ever put a pocketbook on the floor. You want to put it on the back of your chair.
You never put your wallet. Never on the floor.
Put it on your lap, over your knee. What is wrong with her?
Yeah, I don't know. Was there $3,000 in it, or was there, somebody's just like,
cash?
Was it a, taking it away kind of thing? I don't know. I'm just speculating. If this was a movie, right? That would be a good.
Or was it a botch to? I don't think it was, but was it a botch to like trade and the person forgot to put a replacement handbag there?
That's what I'm
and
saying.
She knew it was on the audio video. No,
I don't think they're smart enough.
It's not that. It's not
that. So okay, I do have one legal question for you, if you don't mind.
I love those.
The Supreme Court, these Supreme Court people, these Alitos and Thomases and Robertses, they're like into this like originalist thing, right? Where they're like, we have to think about the original meaning of so if they're originalists, why don't they ever like read the Constitution and do what it says? Like what do they have against the 14th Amendment specifically? I mean, what's going on?
Well, a couple things. You're reminding me that KBJ had this wonderful footnote in a recent decision calling out the justices on, I think Alito in particular, on his fake originalism. But beyond that, when you're talking about birthright citizenship, I just want to be super clear. The decision that came down, I think it was June 27th, that is tangentially, that involved the birthright citizenship case, the CASA decision, did not actually go to the merits of the 14th Amendment. I think the Supreme Court could have chosen to do that. They just dealt with the question of whether a nationwide injunction was appropriate with individual plaintiffs. Yeah. And I find it really frustrating. I think they could have done something quite differently. However, the good news, as I'm sure you heard, was that yesterday, a court in New Hampshire, a federal court in New Hampshire, did grant a nationwide injunction because a class action was brought. And he narrowed the class to include any babies born in the United States, I think it was after February 20th, and to the future, whose parents are not documented U.S., aren't U.S. citizens, essentially. I'm keeping it simple. And so because that has happened, now we will actually get this up to the Supreme Court in short order to see whether the court will actually look at the 14th Amendment. But I think they're basically, it's all political.
Crazy thing to think about that this is happening. I'm sorry.
Right.
It just every once in a while it hits me how insane this moment is.
Yeah.
It's worse, I mean, to this case is terrible because it starts to unravel, right? I might think I'm a US citizen, right? My parents are US citizens, but wait a second, my mother's mother was a Canadian. I mean, how far back do you have to go?
Right. Yeah.
Because at some point, people crossed over. I'm a child of immigrants at some point from Eastern Europe. And so the questions may become, am I a citizen? And so you really need to have a clean line. And born here is the line. It's always been part of our nation's history. And then the 14th Amendment, which, came around, we're almost, what is it, 150 years on that one. They really should have jumped in and said, by the way, we're taking this question. The Supreme Court does that all the time. They don't have to just answer the question that was given to them. They could have said, you know what, this is a situation where, because it's so important, we're going to address the question about whether this is constitutional or not. And then they could just declare it unconstitutional, the executive order that tries to erase birthright citizenship, and just say that. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a way for them to have done that. I don't know. But
it's ominous that they didn't, I think. And also, tell me if I'm reading this, because my reading of it is that they basically said, we're going to just let them do the bad thing that's illegal until we eventually rule later. And by the way, we're going on vacation now for the next 3 months. Bye. Is that right? So it's almost like a workaround. Is that right? Or am I reading it wrong?
I mean, that's the effect of it. Look, I don't want to be into this like legal technicalities. I think what they should have done is left this injunction in place.
Right.
I would have done that. And I would have done just the same kind of machinations they did about like one category of presidential immunity. They could have created one category of something that's patently unconstitutional or patently unconstitutional for which they will allow a nationwide injunction. And it's going to have to be limited to things that are explicitly like in a constitutional amendment, and there's a long-standing precedent. They could have done that category, and then for everything else, they could have said no nationwide injunction. Like they know how to do that,
right? Yeah. So why didn't they?
Yeah,
because
it feels like they knew ahead of time you're going to do it this way. I feel like the fix is in, Jen. Why didn't they?
Because Donald Trump stacked the court with people who would support him. And but law is not something you find in the sky. Law is always and always has been, legal interpretations are intersected with policy and politics, right? They always are. And so they're making a political decision here. Same reason why they were able to lie and pretend they weren't going to overturn Roe v. Wade, and they did. They have a particular vision for how they think the world should operate. And I don't think it's all that far from Donald Trump's world.
Right. I'm saying it feels like they're going to say there is no such thing as birthright citizenship.
No. Only 2 of them, I think, or 3 at most.
Okay, good.
I could be wrong. This morning on my show, I showed a clip from a few weeks ago. It's the one with Melissa Murray and George Conway arguing on MSNBC. And George said when the right class action is brought, and it's brought up to the Supreme Court, they're going to say this is unconstitutional. Essentially, he said this class will be certified and it will work. And Melissa Murray was like, it ain't going to happen. And they both respectfully said, you're wrong. And I want to believe George, and I'm afraid that Melissa might be right. But I'm going to stay in the camp where this goes up to them, and they allow, because what they would do instead, the effed up thing they would do instead isn't say that they would avoid the merits again, and they would just say this class can't be certified. They would come up with the technicality under the federal rules of civil procedure. So when you bring a class action,
the lawsuit,
yeah. Okay. So when you bring a lawsuit, if you sued someone because you had a contractor come into your house and they did some wiring and part of the house caught on fire and you wanted to sue them, right? You could do that.
Next week. Yeah.
Oh God, terrible. If you also were at a dance party and the same thing happened at a nightclub and there were 20 of you, you could all join together in a lawsuit as plaintiffs. If that number gets really, really big, you want to sue as a class of people, then because for a couple of reasons. You get so many people, how can you all show up in court? The case would go on forever. Discovery would be very expensive. So when you bring a case on behalf of a class, you have to define the class as all the people who were at, let's say it was a concert where there's 50, 100, in a venue with 3,000 people, you have to find anyone who was at the venue, blah, 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 blah. And, you'd try to come up with a class. And it's not automatic that you get to sue as a class, because when you get to sue as a class, only a few people are the representatives. You cut through all these other obligations when you bring a lawsuit. So in order to get the privilege to sue as a class, you've got to follow the strictures of this thing called Rule 23. Okay. And without getting into the weeds of Rule 23, there's a really important part of Rule 23B2, which would allow you to, the judge certify this class on the basis of that the defendant, in this case, the government, is going to be, that if you stop them from doing the unlawful thing that they're doing, it would actually help the entire class. So that is what avenue they're trying to go on. That's what they're trying to do. So, and then they also got a preliminary injunction separate from the class certification saying they're likely to succeed on the merits, that this is clearly unconstitutional, this order. So the Supreme Court is more likely to want to avoid the question of constitutionality, because there's this doctrine called constitutional avoidance, where if you can avoid a constitutional question, you try to. So what they would do is
like it's a job or anything to actually help.
So what they would do, because it would be too outrageous for them to just overturn birthright citizenship, they would try to do what Roberts tried to do when he was trying to chip away at Roe v. Wade. What they would try to do is say something like, well, this isn't an appropriate class because, and they would go through these other parts of the rule and say because of this or because of that. This is like, for example, when these women tried to sue Walmart for discrimination, that went up to the United States Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, you can't be a class. And they came up with a technicality for why they couldn't be a class. So that is more likely to slam this down on procedure. That's a fight that I think, and I think the answer is going to have to be, I know for sure the 3 women justices wouldn't go for that. And maybe, I don't know. So that's the question. What's going to happen there? I think this is going to be victorious. I think the whole country, the whole future of democracy depends on the Supreme Court allowing for this kind of class to be certified and for this nationwide injunction, because that's how you stop all these unlawful executive orders of Donald Trump. And there are other things that are problematic too, like kidnapping people off the streets and killing people in fields in California when you abduct them. We've been watching this. And at the same time, these are all interlinked, right? This whole MAGA verse of neo-Confederacy, white supremacy, blood and soil is facilitated by mass deportation of brown people and as well ending birthright citizenship. It's all part of their whole agenda. And anything we can do to slow that down, whether it's through the courts or through putting ourselves in the way, is vital.
I think that's
okay. That's a good transition.
Thank you for that answer, but that's also a good segue into the fourth.
Yeah, it is.
So, which is, about what you just said.
I don't have a timer because I had to shove my phone underneath. I'm trying to put new sheets on my bed. You guys probably saw it in the chair. So under the covers.
I can do the timer.
Yeah, do the timer so we don't go too long.
Yeah.
We'll go back to that. Oh, Jen, I'm glad you're hopeful about it, that you think the Supreme Court will uphold the Constitution. I don't know.
I wouldn't trust John Roberts for anything.
I'm not putting money down on anything. There's no risk. I'm not someone who thinks if I never get my hopes up, then life will be better. I'm okay with the roller coaster. I'd like to have a little endorphins and a little hope. I'm not naive. I'm not going to sit around by the phone waiting for the cute guy to call me on Saturday night. That's not going to happen here, right? But in this case, I think that the court is going to allow this. And if they don't, then Melissa Murray wins. And then I go out and, drink too much vodka or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So as you said, it is as an intention, though, the intention to strip away birthright citizenship on behalf of the administration. The intent of this is connected to this neo-Confederacy, what I call, it's like they literally believe, I believe Donald and his goons, they understand things in this way, that they inherited a plantation. The United States is their plantation, and we're all just workers on their plantation.
I love that you're saying that, because it's
instead of a country, right. It's not quite a company. It's actually this sort of land barrenness, and we're the serfs, and we're the workers. We're the inhabitants of the land that they own.
Yeah,
and that's.
So they're the East India Company, is what it is. It's Neo-East India Company. Yeah.
And it comes to this concept of, instead of thinking about a vision of the world with shared prosperity and representational government and abundance instead of hoarding, this is this idea of domination, extraction, supremacy, and it works with patriarchy. And that's the whole thing. And that's, I think, why it's also really appealing to what are they called? Oh gosh,
Synecdoche?
No, no, the kids that are involuntarily celibate. What are they called? Incels. Sorry. It's all part of the incel thing, because their whole idea is, if only women had to depend upon men for money and for safety, then they would be able to have their own wife work for free in their home for them and provide sexual services and labor, right? Property. Yeah. So they want to return to a system, right? The whole plantation mentality, or East, if you will, East India Company. Greg, I'll take either.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, let me say one thing about East India Company. If you've read Adam Winkler's book called We the Corporations, he talks about the Constitution being very much like a corporate charter. And when you look at it, this part of the book was really revelatory for me. So you might want to consider, listening to that book or grabbing it off a shelf somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, my dad always had said, and still to this day says, this country was founded by white propertied males for white propertied males. And so the Constitution was written with that charter. Just was.
Yeah. And what's beautiful now is that we really can be this multiracial democracy. And, they're really, really pushing hard on just one of the reasons why you dismantle the administrative state is because it offers a counterweight to the kind of corporate or private sector domination and plantation system. And it allows for prosperity to be shared. It allows for corrections in markets when markets fail. That's part of what we're trying to do. And so by trying to shut it all down, it becomes a company town. And that company is called Trump Inc.
And it's a surveillance state. Trump Inc. has control over it we really are being policed into oblivion. That budget that ICE now has, and I know that there's reporting about the demoralization happening at ICE, that there's reporting that they're being told, hang on, I know violin, but they're really being driven and told to no longer pursue the cases and the criminals that were the ones that the manosphere were told, right, during Donald Trump campaign, we're going to get the criminals, we're going to get the sex traffickers, we're going to get the
worst of the worst.
They literally have been told, defund that, stop doing that, because the resources of manpower are limited. We want you going to Camarillo or Oxnard, go to where people are, go to the Home Depots and round up hardworking.
Go to the hospitals, go to the museums, the churches,
Yeah, you need to go there and not get, because we're just presuming, and just by the look of people, snatch them up.
Yeah.
I just
I
want
have a
to.
question for you, just to let's imagine in a future date, by natural consequences, somebody passed away. Do you think they would treat him like Chairman Mao and like formaldehyde his body and let it lie in state for a long time? I mean, what are they going to do if something should happen to him to keep his legacy going? Because there's no one. The thing is, he doesn't have a deep bench. The one thing about he doesn't. I haven't seen. I was trying to see what was going on with Don Jr. and
I
Eric.
can't handle this Eric slander, Jen. I don't know. Eric.
Well, Don Jr. is first in line because he is, as Kendall Roy would say, I'm the eldest son.
Yeah.
Oh my God! But then Jared, if we were going to do Tom, it would be a Jared play. But Jared's not been around that long, around this term. So
No, this is they're revolting, Jared and Ivanka, and so they've gone for the most even more revolting thing of just running around to weddings in Venice. That's where they're.
That wedding.
He got his money. He got his $2 billion from the Saudis, and God knows how much else. So
right.
He got what he wanted.
He got his bag.
Yeah, I just. Oh God!
I hope they
mean,
do
this
put
gives
it in
me-
formaldehyde so we can like throw tomatoes at it.
I don't know.
Well,
I think it would be maybe. I did have this vision that the presidential library will just be a circus tent with like kind of what we do with our pool table, but maybe he'll be an exhibit in his presidential library. Maybe he will be taxidermied, and
No, because quite honestly, I don't. Because when you think about fascist regimes lasting in societies, the reason why I mentioned this, you think about family dynasties. I think North Korea, or you think about states where totalitarianism has been the norm for a long time. So Russia had this moment of perestroika, but it goes back to more of a totalitarian regime. I'm not a political scientist. I'm just a person who observes. And so I wonder how you get part of what, how do you get from where we are today to this going on and on forever? And that's why I'm afraid about. That's why they're getting rid of the State Department, right? They're trying to tear everything down to make way for someone other than Donald Trump who could take that on. But I've never seen a charismatic leader continue a legacy unless you have, again, a sort of totalitarian mentality, which we don't have in America, or you have a family legacy. So I remain.
Well, there was the attempt with the fascists in France, the Nazi, the Le Pen, to pass it to the daughter. So maybe if you're, there is a need, like they love that they worship the Aliyevs, right? Like the Trumps did before he got into office. They worship those sort of the regimes of the former Soviet Union, where the countries that still kept, like, it was the son-in-law came in and then the daughter and then the it's like an oligarchy with royal lineage. If you weren't a member of the family, you weren't going to inherit the throne anyway, even though there wasn't technically a monarchy. So maybe it'll go to Ivanka or Lara. Trump seems very ambitious. She seems like she wants something, Eric's wife. I don't know. I don't know. They
won't let women do it. I
don't know that he's going to. I think they have a way to keep this guy going. I think he might go to like 100
until 100, like Jimmy Carter. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Strongman.
Thanks.
Strongmen usually don't have successors like that. Like the Ruth Ben-Ghiat book makes that clear. Like
I love her book.
They're gone. They're gone because there isn't anybody that can. I think that the North Korea thing is the exception rather than the rule. And we'll see it with Putin now. When Putin dies, it's going to be a scrum to see who takes over, unless there's the people that figured this out were again, I'm at the coin show, were the Romans, the ancient Romans. It wasn't usually hereditary. It was usually they adopted somebody that they knew was capable of running the empire.
Oh,
that's what happened. This is my son now. He's going to be the guy, and that's what would happen. And that happened a lot. There was hereditary also, but usually, certainly early on.
Picking the successor, declaring the successor, the inheritor of the throne, and going on.
Yeah, that's
But
usually how it
MAGA,
works.
would MAGA accept Pete Hegseth as the new president? I don't think so, would they?
Well, I mean, if something happened to Trump, it's going to be Vance. And I think, the
Well, Silicon
actuarial
Valley
table
loves him.
suggests we're going to get President Couchfucker, before the end of
Yep.
the term, notwithstanding LB your point. And I think probably if I had to guess, I would bet that he just lives until he's 100. But
Yeah.
the actuarial, I don't think, him getting life insurance policy wouldn't be easy, let's just say, from the actuarial standpoint, right? So I don't know. But it's the fact that we're even talking about this is insane. But I want to just real quick.
Well, because there's another term, because he's going to run for another term.
Right.
Well,
That's
who's-
maddening.
Hang on,
People
guys.
are like, he can't run for another term. If he's still around, he's running, and the court has already fallen. Don't tell me about some stupid amendment.
He's
No
going to
one's
run.
gonna
Oh,
listen to
he'll
amendment.
run. He'll run because he'll claim it had to be two terms, and they'll change the Constitution for him.
They'll do.
He will run.
They'll do whatever. But
He's
real
running
quick,
until he can't. Yeah.
Patel is weaponizing the FBI. They're doing lie detector tests to determine loyalty. They're going after people in the FBI who were part of the Russia investigation or were friends with people who were doing the Russia investigation.
Right.
There's a loyalty purge. They're investigating now Comey and Brennan. They're doing all of that. Okay.
Right.
Kristi
Just
Noem,
like they promised. Yeah.
Yeah. Kristi Noem all over the place. Her face at Newark Airport on all the TVs. She's here.
Oh,
she's
Jesus.
there. She's on TV. No, it's really terrifying. The ICE budget, like you said, LB, insanely large. What are they going to do with that? They're just going to hire more and more of these ICE agents. And if there's a loyalty test at the FBI, there's definitely going to be one at ICE.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That's over. And then it was shared on a Turning Point memo that there's Christian nationalist shit on the Facebook reel of the Homeland Security Department. So we've got that. They're literally building concentration camps in the United States to supplement the concentration camps.
I'm calling them death camps because, this is all happening. Sorry to cut you off. Yep.
And this, what is it? The second largest city in the United States is currently occupied by the fucking Marines, and which isn't talked about enough. So I just want to just throw that out there.
I
got illegal on the second. Oh, sorry. Go.
I just want to ask this question real quick. Then, with that rundown, and there's more, but that's a top shelf rundown right there. What is the line where we already had Timothy Snyder, Bryn Tannehill? We've had some of our canaries in the coal mine, experts on fascism and when nations fall, right, to these regimes, flee.
Yeah, Jason Stanley too. Yeah,
we're out. What is in that whole thing? What's the bellwether? What's the thing that goes, okay,
I have an answer, but I want to hear Jen.
First of all, we're already there. So there's that. The only thing, because of, let me just respond to that, and I'm going to go back to Greg on this question about LA being occupied and the rest of it. So I think we're absolutely already there, and because this budget that passed, the only way that can be stopped is through appropriations. I did a show on this. No one's talking about the fact that a budget is aspirational, and that we still need either the appropriation bills that need 60 votes in the Senate, or continuing resolution, or the government shuts down on September 30th. Remember this from March? Chuck Schumer said, fine, and he had his people vote to do the continuing resolution, but that's only till September 30th. And so the question is, as a legal matter, it is possible, and I've confirmed this with others, to have the Senate refuse to do a continuing resolution. So that's a possibility. And the question is,
I like that.
Should they? Well, should they? And if they do, what's the end game? I mean, because you hurt people when you shut the government down, but do you hurt Trump more? Have they figured out what that would look like? And what do you try to get? Do you try to say, listen, we're not giving a penny to ICE in the appropriation, not a penny this year, unless they have to have badges and they show their face? Do you say no concentration camps? We're not having these detention centers in places where are inaccessible to Congress, who has the right to see these. We're not giving $45 billion to build these. That's not happening. Do we say that? So again, I know we can. Do we do that? And how long do we stand firm? So we should be thinking about this now. I think that matters. Secondly, but we've yeah, and secondly, in terms of with the minute Jason Stanley and Tim Schneider left for Canada, I was worried. I myself, being in Detroit, I'm very close to Canada. I have Canadian relatives. I'm not moving, but I am thinking of putting some money. I don't have lots of money sitting around. I'm thinking of opening a Canadian bank account and putting some money in there and speaking with some of my relatives to say, if something should happen, do you have an extra room for me? Because I could just drive over the river and go there. And if God forbid there's something really that bad happens, could I Zoom my classes from Canada? I don't know. I'm making, I don't know, but I'm actually having those kinds of conversations with my husband, who doesn't like having those conversations with me.
No,
so
nobody
wants
wants to have those conversations, but I think it's time to get
about one good thing, though.
Yeah.
So here's one good thing. So I again, who knows? On that point, I don't think Chuck Schumer has the intestinal fortitude to use any power. But I brought it up. No one's talking about it because I don't think we think we could deal with a 20-day shutdown. I think we're so afraid that people wouldn't get their Social Security. Folks, they're not going to get it anyway. I think our bigger fear is that he's going to say, see, it was the Democrats. But if we're smart enough, we would have the messaging ready saying we're standing in the way of death camps. So the problem is what the Democrats did with all their positioning around this bill was to say, look, it's going to cut this, it's going to cut that. And very few people talked about the concentration camps. Very few people talked about how Dachau in 1933, when that got opened up very quickly, people start dying there of disease. That concentration camp existed not as a death camp, but from the beginning of the war throughout, even after later death camps were opened up. We have to shut it down. And I don't think they have figured out the messaging and how to do that. And I don't know, between you and I, if I would do it. But I do know that if no one does that, we are screwed. And I think they could have separate hearings saying, listen, we're not trying to shut down the government to hurt people. We just want to draw attention to the very dangerous situation we are in. That's one thing. The second thing, one thing very good about Los Angeles. Remember how Gavin Newsom sued to try to stop the federalization of the National Guard? And we had Judge Charles Breyer say, National Guard can only be handled by Newsom. Remember how the Ninth Circuit said, no, let Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth march the National Guard around there. That wasn't the end of the story. I don't know if you know this. Again, got very little attention. Huge news. Judge Charles Breyer has scheduled for trial August 11th through 13th on the question of whether, when the National Guard was there, they violated the Posse Comitatus Act, which is really important because this would be, we're not going to win on the question of whether the National Guard it doesn't look like we're going to win on whether the National Guard can be around to help ICE agents, but they certainly can't get engaged in this other stuff. So we're having that trial. I think that's worth something. Had you heard about that?
No.
What?
When is it?
August 11th through 13th.
Okay, coming up.
In California.
That's,
Charles Breyer, the brother of Stephen Breyer.
Brother of Stephen Breyer. Yeah.
That's happening.
That's good. I like that. That's a good thing to, to sort of wind down on. But I want to answer your question, LB. I think that, what's the canary in the coal mine? I think it's Mamdani to me.
Oh, yes.
I feel like he cracked the code for the Democrats. Whether you like him or don't like him, or he's whatever you want to say.
Love him.
His messaging is really, he figured it out. It's effective and people like him, and they like him because he's authentic and he seems like a nice guy. And he's, he seems like he wants to help people. If he wins and becomes mayor of the largest city in the country and does well, I think that is going to help us. If they send ICE to New York City to deport him sometime between now and November, which is
if they Nalvani him,
which might happen. You know, there's so many the ranges of possibility. I feel like that's the bellwether. If something bad happens to him between now and November, we are capital F fucked.
And let me just say, what's already bad happening to him, and I 100% agree with you, is that Wall Street hates him. And the other day, I was really disappointed in Hakeem Jeffries for saying, well, I need to sit down with him. Will you endorse him? Well, I need to sit down with him. And
the other day,
and he's got these great ideas about how, to give free bus fare. I don't know if that's realistic. Fuck you. Donald Trump promised all kinds of shit that never panned out. What the hell is wrong with the Democrats? First of all, there had been free riding for a period of time in New York. The problem is Wall Street owns the Democratic Party. And my fear is they're going to be hand in hand with getting that guy deported. But worse than that, they're going to throw so much money into this race. I'm disgusted by them not supporting him. And he is not anti-Semitic. And the idea that these same people who are saying that he's unqualified or he's anti-Semitic are perfectly fine with Elon Musk and his Nazi salute and Grok going full Nazi and Donald Trump's comment the other day about Shylock and his raping people. What planet are we on? And I agree. He not just cracked the code, he listened to people. Yeah. It's the same. It's like he said, what's up with you? What do you want to have change in your life? Like, I can't afford shit. That's always the story. And he said, let's figure that out for you. How about listening to people instead of hiring consultants?
Yeah, well, if we do a focus group, we might. Did you see the thing? Somebody put together a thing. I hope it's still there. It's called mamdaniTimes.com.
Yes.
And it generates fake New York Times headlines about like what they would write about. Like
about him.
The best one was, Mamdani claims to use Oxford comma despite having never gone there. Like it's something like that. Like,
oh, it's so
good,
funny.
and you just click through, and then it's
not
affiliated
bullshit,
with the campaign,
right?
But you can donate money through the thing. It really, I was waiting at the airport. I was like cracking up.
When I saw that, no, it's brilliant. And I feel like, he's a generational talent, just like AOC. And,
who endorsed him right away, by the way. Yeah. She knows what
she's looking at.
Game knows game. And that's, that's what I hope for. And he turned out people who never vote. That's what we need to do. And I just, it's just really hard to believe that people, and also young people. Yeah,
you've got young people
as candidates who, because everyone, I guess they care more about amassing their own power than, Democrats are supposed to care about the next generation and shared prosperity and the long term. You would think that you would say, you know what, we're kind of comfortable. We're in our 60s and 70s. We're kind of comfortable. Why don't we let the next group do this? That's not what they do.
No.
They like being comfortable. That is not the Democratic Party I want to be part of.
Yeah.
The only other hope we have is that Elon Musk actually creates this third party to drain votes from Donald Trump. That could be good.
Told him to do. Yeah, right. Okay.
What?
Look, here's the other thing about, just a quick note on the Elon Musk. I'm going to create a third party. We have an independent party. It's crazy to me. Like Bernie was always crazy to me. It was like, just put your time and energy and effort into the party that you actually run on the ticket of, Bernie, instead of trying to come and be in we've had this opportunity with the independent party for decades to build that third party up so that we actually had three parties instead of two parties. And I don't know. So
I don't want a third party.
The two-party system is baked into the it will never
I
have
understand. I'm just
unless
saying,
we have a parliament,
it's
which
crazy
wouldn't be bad.
The what?
I think we should just throw it. I've always thought we should have a parliamentary system.
Well, then you get stuck with Bibi forever. So
that's true. There's advantages
because of coalitions. Oh yeah, I don't want that.
Ranked choice is a nice way to vote, though. That's part of the reason
I am for that.
In New York is that he got a lot of.
We need ranked choice voting. Michigan has started an effort to do ranked choice voting. That's a thing. I think another thing we could get involved in right now in the states. In New York State, It's only the city that has it, right? New York State
Yeah.
doesn't have ranked choice voting.
Correct.
So I guess they'll never allow that now.
We'll see what happens. I don't know.
I don't know. No,
Kathy
he
Hochul is
Lander.
proving to be a great governor right now. She is coming out fighting.
Yeah.
Finally.
I do.
Finally.
Yeah. Well, you forget she's Italian from Buffalo, man. She's going to
Okay,
show up.
fair.
She's going to show up with the goods when she needs to, and she is. And so I appreciate her. I do think Pritzker is doing an amazing job. Like there are Democratic governors, blue state governors, who are rising to this moment and doing the best they can by their states. Even Gavin Newsom is really stepping up. What I know, I always liked him. I know to me he was just always like sort of like a failed male model or something, but
he's a good man. I do.
He's a good guy, and he learned under Jerry Brown, and you can't get that kind of education anywhere else. So I love Jerry Brown. I'm sorry. I do think there's sort of hope in that. I'm all for. I just don't know that we know where we're going. I don't know any. That's why I was asking that bellwether question. I have a saying that I'll say at the end that, sort of trying to be hopeful, but I don't think it's helpful to just like what you were saying, Jen, earlier, of just sort of like, I'm not Pollyanning this, we've got to stay in realism. Jen, tell us where people can find you. Let everybody know where they can find you. Let's promote you a little bit. What do you've got going on?
Well, I'm on Bluesky, where unbelievably I have 212,000 followers, which is
you were
crazy.
one of the first ones in there working that. Yeah.
But I did back. I had a relapse on Twitter several years ago, but I haven't really been on there.
Okay.
I deleted all my stuff. I just have a placeholder. So yeah, there's there. And then every morning, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., I'm right here on YouTube. My show's called Jen Taub Live, and you can just Google Jen Taub and you'll find me.
Yeah. And like and subscribe. Do you have a place
right.
where people can become members of Jen Taub Live?
Yes,
and
exactly.
Yeah.
You come, yeah, I've got the whole deal, the mods, the whole spiel. So
there we are.
There it is.
Jen Taub Live. All right, Jen Taub. Oh my God, it was so great having you.
But that wasn't a photo of me.
No, I don't know what that
popped up.
No. That's TruePlayer.
Yeah, that's our account, that our moderator that was just putting that up.
Oh, I see. Hi, moderator. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's TruePlayer. So loved having you. Thanks for reminding us of those big things that actually are happening.
August 11th. That's going to be important. 11th.
Okay.
And before that, the Supreme Court will get to. They're not going to, I think, put off this. Well, let me back up. On that nationwide injunction to stop the birthright citizenship order, the best thing they could do is say, we're on vacation, because then it would stay in place.
Okay. Then it would stay in place. Okay. So we can cross
our fingers. The injunction would stay in place is what I mean. Yeah.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cross our fingers that we can get elongate, delay, and keep the injunction in place. And we look forward to seeing you in the mornings, and we hope you come back soon. And
thank you. I have to have you on my morning show if you believe in mornings, but yeah.
I believe I'm up. Greg and I are up very early. So, this is like, I don't know why we torture ourselves and do a late show, because normally we're in bed by now, but on Friday nights.
Yeah, this is past my bedtime too.
So past my bedtime. But, I guess until they scoop up Mondami, we're just going to have to get through it.